Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Balancing Act. I'm Olga Villaverde.
I'm Montel Williams.
Today, how to get online prescription weight loss medication safely and easily.
And how one Houston organization is empowering educators, community leaders to address poverty in classrooms, communities, and beyond.
And looking back at the powerful impact one of our rare disease warriors had on all of us. Sadly, gone too soon.
Balancing Act begins right now. You know, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, obesity affects more than 1 in every 3 Americans, which is crazy.
Associated with more than 200 comorbidities, including diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and even multiple types of cancer, obesity has truly become a global health epidemic.
Diet, exercise, and lifestyle changes are just part of the picture when it comes to combating this disease.
Studies have shown that GLP-1 weight loss medications, originally developed for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, can play a significant role in weight loss.
So how do you get safe and seamless access to this medication? Here to break it down for us is Chris Armstrong, who is the CEO of DirectMeds and their Director of Nursing, Constance Armstrong. Thank you so much for being here today, guys.
Appreciate your time. Constance, let me start with you. We mentioned GLP-1 weight loss medications. For our viewers who may not know or may not understand how it works, tell us about it and how it works in contingency with weight loss as well.
In 2013, the American Medical Association officially defined obesity as a medical condition and a treatable medical condition. So now all of a sudden we're able to do medical clinical trials to see what can we do to get this under control. And like you said, 1 out of 3 Americans is obese. That's 30% BMI or more, which honestly, if you look around, this is so much of just America as a whole. And it's young and old, male and female.
So that's really a game changer that they made that announcement, because at that
100%.
moment, it opened the door to avenues of, hey, what could we do?
Right, like what's next? How do we treat this? So semaglutide and tirzepatide do that. That's what they're set up to do. GLP-1 inhibiting, it's a hormone that works in your body. Originally, they were used primarily for diabetes type 2, and then they saw that these patients were losing weight. And so then clinical trials started to really bring that together so that we could have what now is an effective weight loss protocol.
It seems like right now, every time I turn on television, I see ads for these kinds of medications. So how is DirectMeds working with patients to provide them with really good access?
Getting access to medications has to be safe, but there's so much that goes into making it available to everybody. Offering a GLP-1 medication to the public is not an easy process. It requires a lot of certifications. You have to have processes that are in place for safety. Even just vetting doctors and networks and making sure that that part is safe is just something that's required even before you go to market. Then once you go to market, we've really tried to understand who our patients are. And a lot of our patients need help getting through the process of understanding who the company is, who the doctors are going to be, what service is going to be there. In fact, one of the things that we did at DirectMeds is we realized that even just doctors interacting with patients, sometimes that's just not enough. So we've added on a nursing layer, because nurses are the ones that really understand the concerns of a patient and can advocate for that patient's needs with the doctor network. And the best part is it's with the medication that's phenomenal. It works great.
So the patient can be assured that they're going to get individualized care. It's not one step fits all, it's right?
100%.
Okay.
And a lot of that comes down to our technology. The technology is what allows us to gauge, are you having the right experience with weight loss, with the customer service experience? And are you really getting the education you need to feel like you're working with a company that understands you at a personalized level?
So how do you make it safe, and how do you demonstrate to others that the medications are real?
It's absolutely safe. We have protocols that the doctors have worked out that are amazing. They start off so that we can test your tolerance, make sure that you're having a good experience with as minimal side effects as possible. And then if the experience is not ideal, there are ways that we can alter your protocol or make a transition into a different medication so that you're having a better experience and feeling healthier.
You know, often I think with telemedicine like this, people don't feel as if they're getting that individualized care.
Right.
So how does it work? What does a patient have to do?
Right, what's the process?
Yeah, so the process starts online, and that's really important. First, they're going to go through a process just to understand, are they a good candidate for taking GLP-1 medications online? Potentially some underlying conditions might mean that it's better for them to see a specialist in person. But for us, it's all online, which means we have your medical records protected in a HIPAA-compliant environment. That means your doctor has access to those patient records. Our medical staff, our customer service staff, all have access to this data. When you have access to that data, it means that we can make sure that we're aware of what you need. You can communicate with our teams. You can communicate with all of our staff. And as we build a patient record over time, the first place that we want to start is weight loss. But really, once you go through weight loss, you're moving on to other medications to continue to improve your life the way that you want it to. We've experienced it where you go into a clinic and you've been there before, you fill out the same paperwork, and we ask ourselves, why do we do that? It's really frustrating. We ask the same question. We don't want to do that. We want it all online. We want it very simple. So that way, when you call in, talk to a doctor, talk to our customer service staff, they know exactly who you are. They're building a relationship with you. And that's what we're really focusing on.
And when you order, is it all inclusive? Do I have to go get it? Do you bring it to me? How does that work?
Great question. When you start the process online, you're going to go through those qualification questions. You're going to select the medication that you're interested in, and then you'll pay for that medication. Our protocol is that within 4 hours, a doctor is going to review your medical records. Sometimes a doctor might actually reach out, but oftentimes they're able to look at your medical history and have a medication prescription approved within 4 or 5 hours. To our point with patient care, it's really individual of whether a doctor needs to pick up the phone. But for the most part, prescriptions are approved online very quickly. And then once that prescription's approved, it goes straight to the pharmacy, and there's lots of safety checks that happen. But once it's shipped, you're gonna have it delivered to your door next day via UPS. And it's just that simple, and it's that convenient. And that's really what we want. We want to build easier access.
Have you heard of any success stories, personal experiences where really this has been like a game changer for people?
Well, I talk to the patients every day.
Okay.
And I will say, as a whole, all of the patients that I talk to, once they've been in the protocol for at least 30 to 60 days, they tell me, yes, I've lost 8 pounds this month.
That's great.
Yes, I've lost 18 pounds over the last 30 days. I mean, I get these stories every day. I could probably pull up a list right now. There's a ton of success stories. They're very real. We retain these patients because they're getting amazing results, and they're super happy.
Yeah, and even my father-in-law, he's one of our first patients, and he lost quite a bit of weight in the first month. And so sometimes that happens quickly for some patients, some people don't, and it really depends on how their body responds to it. And it's just wild. It's absolutely wild. His hips don't hurt as much. He sleeps better at night. These are things that I get to see him at the family gatherings, and I'm like, hey, everybody's wondering, why he's whittling away and looking visibly different. But I think that's one of the really cool thing about our patients. People can visibly see physical changes, and it just comes out in their personality and just their personal health, and it's just phenomenal to watch.
For our viewers at home that want to get started, where do they go?
You can go get started at direct-meds.com.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I'm glad your father-in-law is doing great. And of course, if you want more information, where do they go?
BouncingAct.com.
That's right. We'll be right back.
Look, education is a common gateway to a better future, but not everyone has the same access or opportunities. For many children and adults living in poverty who have fewer resources, access to quality education is a distant dream. And sometimes not even that, it's the instability created by a survival environment that makes it difficult to plan for a future. Today, we have with us Dr. Ruby K. Payne, known for her work in the field of poverty, to tell us a little bit more. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today, Ruby, for sure. Look, I say it all the time, and I've said it throughout my entire life because it was this for me. I grew up in a ghetto, one of the largest ghettos in this country, a place called Cherry Hill, Baltimore. And always knew, because my parents emphasized this to the nth degree, education would be the great equalizer. It's a great equalizer. It's a way that anybody can lift themselves out of poverty, or is that right?
Well, not necessarily always.
Okay.
You can really work hard, you can get educated, it won't get you out. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't do those two things, you won't ever get out.
Wow.
So they're key. Yeah.
So what got you started on to focusing on that intersection of poverty and education?
Well, my former husband, who passed away, was named Frank Payne. He was a mix of Cherokee and Caucasian. Extreme poverty, and when I met his family, he had 3 siblings, IQs over 150, smartest family I've ever met, okay? And extreme poverty. I couldn't understand why they lived the way they did. And so that's what led me to understanding that environment. And then he took a job in the Chicago Board of Trade, and we were thrown in with very wealthy people. And I didn't understand the hidden rules of wealth. Hidden rules are unspoken queuing mechanisms.
I was going to ask you that because you came up with something about the hidden rules.
Yeah.
Talk about what they are.
And the bottom line is that people use them, they break relationships. One of the things you have to have if you want to move out of poverty is bridging social bridging capital. You have to meet people different than you are, okay? Because they help you see the world a different way, you think differently. And I couldn't understand that environment, okay? And hidden rules tell people whether you belong or not. Like if you've ever been in a social setting that was so uncomfortable you couldn't wait to leave.
Right.
Yep. Well, there were hidden rules operating, and we have them by class, by race, by region of the country, and they often keep people from getting educated because I don't like you, I'm not going to work with you, etc. Yeah.
Wow. So, like in your experience, there are some really common misconceptions when it comes to poverty and the ability to learn, which isn't necessarily the same, right?
Exactly.
Right.
People don't understand how much knowledge bases are in the environment. See, everybody's got 24 hours a day, and how you spend your time determines to a large extent who you know and what you know, okay? And then what your environment demands from you. Like in middle-class households, there's tons of paper, okay? Documents everywhere. You don't have any of those in high-poverty households. Wealth has documents and paperwork that middle class doesn't understand, like provenance, like trusts, etc. And so those environments help you succeed in the institution of schooling.
And is this why you created this whole company called AHA, The Process Inc.? I mean, is this what really prompted you to do this? And tell me a little bit more about it.
My background is an educator, done a lot of work with schools, and people were having a lot of difficulty getting their children educated in schools. And the educators were having the most difficulty. And so I explained to them, no, this is why this is happening, okay, and here's how you work to make this happen. If you don't, we do a lot of community work, and if you basically don't work with the institutions, you don't change the community, because institutions create barriers. Institutions are the vehicle by which people, individuals, interface with communities.
You help those institutions lift some of those barriers.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. And is that why you started this program called Getting Ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
And Getting Ahead is for adults in poverty. We've taken 125,000 adults in poverty, and we pay them to learn. Middle class gets paid to learn. Companies pay their employees to learn. We just say, here's information that you can use if you wish to stabilize your environment.
Okay, and now you've done a lot of learning, but a lot of teaching is you're a pretty prolific author, right? I mean, you've written several books, and some of this goes down the path of economic development, right?
Right. I'm very interested in how communities stabilize, because if communities aren't stable, neither are the institutions, neither are the individuals. So how do you have economic development? And poverty reduction is one of the tools for economic development. And our ROI, we've taken 125,000 adults through poverty through it, is very good. One community got, for every dollar they spent, they got a $20 return. One community, for every dollar, got a $7 return. So we know it works for sustainability.
You've written several books, and we just have a couple of them here. What do you think one of the best tips you have in one of those books might be?
Well, this one is about what happens when we do socioeconomic class. So poverty, middle class, wealth, how they think differently. That's what happens when people get in a romantic relationship, poverty to middle class to wealth, what they fight about, why you don't like your sister-in-law. Okay. This is about how you deal with emotional realities.
Okay.
This one looks at community issues, how you stabilize your community if you don't stabilize your community, particularly the institutions in the community. I live in Corpus Christi, Texas. They wanted to address their homeless issues, so they brought a woman in who only wanted to work with the wealthy and did not want to work with the institutions. Well, institutions are how individuals interface with the community. So if you want to change a community, we have learned in 25 years, you have to work with the institutions. Okay?
You know, right now, we're living in a tough time. I mean, that chasm between the haves and have-nots, the wealthy and the poor, is just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But we need to make sure that those on either side can understand tools that they can do to help both sides.
Yeah, there's
The wealthy-
not a lot of dialogue between the groups. Yeah.
So what do you think we need to do?
Well, one thing we do, like in this book, in the school business, we educate educators about the realities, you know, and how you transition. And you have to have social bridging capital. It's pretty difficult now to make it out of poverty unless you have an advocate. You've got to have a relationship. Somebody who kind of teaches you the rules that are operating out here that you don't quite understand, and how you negotiate them and how you deal with those knowledge bases. So we like to educate the resource to people in institutions, people who, because they create the barriers, they make the laws.
Sure.
And if you have a dialogue both ways, then you can stabilize.
Put on a crystal ball for a second. You look at America right now, the chasm between those who are the wealthy and those who are in poverty seems to be getting bigger and deeper and deeper and deeper. Do we not need more programs like this to help people understand that there is a way to step your way out of poverty?
There is a way. Right now, there's a whole set of thinking at the academic level that you can only change it if you change systems. But systems are made up of people, and you have to be able, you have to work at, there's 4 causes for poverty: individual choices, the resources of a community, jobs, transportation, housing, exploitation, racism, sexism, and the last one is political and economic systems. And we have learned over the years, if you only address one cause, you will never, ever move the needle.
Wow. Look, if people wanted to get more information, because this is truly fascinating, where would they go?
ahaprocess.com, AHAPROCESS.com.
Dr. Payne, thank you so much for being a part of the show today, for
Thanks.
sure. Absolutely. And of course, if you don't go up on ahaprocess.com, you can always go to our website, thebalancingact.com, and get more information. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Before we close the show, we must sadly say goodbye to one of our rare disease warriors.
With us for just 2 decades, Najee Forrest recently returned to the Lord at the tender age of 20.
She and her sister suffered from sickle cell anemia, a blood disorder that causes red blood cells to become rigid and sickle-shaped, which can lead then to anemia, organ damage, and other health problems.
We first met her 7 years ago on a show that we called Live Life Forward.
At 13, she was battling the disease on all fronts. Inspired to become a baker, Najee started creating delicious sweets that were healthier for the family and enjoyed by all.
This talented chef was on a mission to spread awareness about this inherited disease, helping sickle cell community and other patients one cake at a time.
Her social media was full of inspirational and motivational words of wisdom. She provided advice and information about the disease that played such a huge role in her life. Surrounded by a loving and supportive family, Najee was a beacon of light. She lovingly referred to herself as the little brown girl with the green hair.
We here at BranchStar will always cherish the time that we spent with her. She'll be missed by all who knew her, especially her devoted mother, father, and siblings.
Najee said about her baking, and I quote, "For little kids just like me to be able to enjoy a little slice of heaven."
And now she's in heaven, watching down on all of us, her family and us.
Rest in peace, Najee.
Rest in peace. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Remember to head to our Facebook page, like us on Instagram, follow us on X, and visit thebalancingact.com to enter our latest sweepstake or giveaway.
Stay safe, love that family of yours. We'll see you next time.